Great. Hello, everyone, and good morning. My name is Jessica Carrera. I am a staff member at Making Sense International. Thank you for joining today's breakout session, Youth Voice Rising to Change Local Systems, led by Youth Systems Collaborative, Education Development Center, and the International Youth Foundation. We ask that during the presentation you remain on mute with your video turned off. If you have any questions, please be sure to type them in the chat box, and there will be time at the end of the presentation to go over and answer any of those questions. With that, I will introduce the first presenter. Ms. Bonnie Politz is an independent youth and community strategy consultant working on a variety of domestic and global projects. She has an extensive career focused on ensuring the positive and healthy development of children and youth who grow up in underserved communities in the United States and around the globe. Through her work in the public and nonprofit sectors, as well as philanthropy, Ms. Politz provides leadership within and across sectors at the local, state, regional, and national levels to promote the design and implementation of strategic approaches to child and youth success. And Ms. Bonnie Politz, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Jessica. Welcome, everyone participating from around the globe. I'm excited to be here today. On behalf of the Youth Systems Collaborative and in partnership with two members of the YSC, EDC, and IYF. Before we jump in, we're going to do a quick poll. We'd like to sort of know who's in the room with us virtually. So Jessica's going to put up a quick poll that we're going to take about 30 seconds for. And the question is, what is your main role in the field of youth development? And if folks could just take 30 seconds to enter your responses, we'll get going. Is it working? I don't see numbers coming up. Hi, okay, so it looks like we have primary of implementers, lots of technical assistance providers and researchers, along with some donors. So that's a great mix of folks, and now we're gonna move into the presentation. Thank you. Jessica, we go to the next one. Thank you. So, as Jessica said, I'm here on behalf of the Youth Systems Collaborative, which was conceived by Claire Ignatowski and myself several years ago, following years of work and travel together. These combined travels were in support of expanding and embedding positive youth development principles and practices within and across all USAID youth-serving sectors. It also built upon both of our experiences working domestically in the US to help strengthen youth and community initiatives. It led us to want to learn more and open doors of learning from across the international community, specifically focused on how the systems that impact youth can be reimagined to greatly expand positive outcomes for all young people who are whole human beings requiring collaborative whole systems support. So we're very proud that these organizations are working along with all of us. Next. So what is the Youth Systems Collaborative? It's an opportunity for organizations that are typically competitors going after some of the same grants and contracts to really sit together and begin to look at field building. We wanted this to not to be about any specific project, but really strengthening the field of positive youth development and thinking how this is going to be systemically approached. It's about co-creation. It's about moving from things towards things that we can all agree are going to really have the greatest impact. It's about complexity. None of this is simple work. This is very hard. The systems that are in place have been there for many years. They have lots of supporters. There are policies, legislation, budget issues all impacted that we have to be aware of. And we wanted to be able to amplify learning and use each of the organizations involved to both look within, but also think about how we can expand our learning. Next. Next slide. You can put up the whole thing. Thank you. So we've talked about a learning architecture for systems change, and systems change can be viewed as sort of a black box. Whether we're talking about health, whether we're talking about education, whether we're talking about transportation, systems that are focusing on youth workforce development, health, physical and mental health, so much that Mike talked about housing, transportation, technology. They're all systems that exist in communities, and they're all talking about trying to reach positive youth outcomes, but we wanted to begin to unpack what's really happening where the effort and the impact and the approaches are really looking at how to change the systems. So we're thinking about readiness conditions to really get localities to think about systems change. We're looking at early changes, the types of commitments, actions, infrastructures that are in place that you need to understand in order to really make change. We want to learn more about how these efforts are maturing over time and really making it through changes in how governments come in, new leaders come in and just don't discard things, but build on really continuing to make systems change. And the impact at the policy, the population level. So we would get beyond these 10 or 15 or 100, 200 young people who may be impacted through a program and really focus on how are the systems impacting hundreds of millions of young people in countries. Next. So we've, over time, this has been an evolving learning framework, something that we had presented early and is being worked on and revised as our members sort of give their input. I'm not going to go through each petal, but to know that certainly, and we're going to hear more about them and come back to this as a follow-up question, but starting with strong vision and goals and all the aspects that communities, locales have to be thinking about to try and really learn what's going on within each of the systems, to then think about how systems change happens within an education system, but also thinking about the very core relationships between, for example, education, health, transportation, technology, housing. How does this all fit together? Because that's the life of our young people. They're impacted by all of those. And so certainly the petals towards the left upper part about policies and laws, norms and mindsets, systems mapping are very core, because if we don't make changes in the policies, the legislation, the budgets that impact everything we do in countries and in locales, then we're never going to make the big changes that we need. So could we go on to the next? So I'm going to turn this over now to our wonderful presenters. And I'm going to introduce our first one. Dr. Theresa Mccomid is an experienced educator with a focus on out-of-school youth programs, working closely with the out-of-school youth development alliances, senior government representatives, key stakeholders and partners, and youth to improve education and employment outcomes. Dr. Mccomid worked with the Philippine Department of Education's alternative learning systems, incorporating work readiness skills, civic engagement, and youth leadership activities and livelihood opportunities appropriate for out-of-school youth. Dr. Mccomid is currently the Deputy Chief of party for the USAID Opportunity 2.0 Youth Development Project and was the DCOP for the MyDev project. Theresa, I will hand it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I am very pleased. Good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in this part of the world. Again, I am Theresa. I am from the Education Development Center working here in the Philippines. So this Youth Development Alliance is a local government unit-led alliance headed by the local chief executive, or we call it here in our place, the mayor, that serves as a foundation. This Youth Development Alliance, led by the mayor, serves as a foundation for local leadership and ownership. So it is basically composed of private sector, government, non-government, and private institutions that have youth-oriented programs in the locality. So it uses participatory approach for selecting youth representatives who are sitting in the alliance. So it's not just the government agencies and all the heads of those institutions and organizations, but we are bringing in the voice of the youth in the alliance. So there are 3 males and 3 females youth leaders who were selected each year by their peers or their co-youth to be sitting in the alliance as members of the Youth Development Alliance. Specifically to bring the voice of the youth and to be able to bring and speak up for the needs of the youth, for their voices to be heard on the table. And they always suggest programs and services that would benefit the larger youth in the community. So again, there are 6 youth leaders sitting in the alliance. There are 12 to 15 Youth Development Alliance leaders, and they meet monthly to discuss support and youth services for the youth in general. So this YDA with the youth representatives lobby for youth policies. It's very important, as Bonnie pointed out. This is for sustainability. So they lobby this in the local council. They facilitate the participation of the youth in economic, education, social, and civic engagement activities. They provide scholarships for college and technical skills trainings. They identify education and employability priorities that are linked to local economic development. They mobilize government and private sectors for youth development programs and all of those initiatives. There are also provisions of logistics and supplies for the conduct of the civic engagement activities by the Alliance. As you can see in the picture, the man in the white shirt is the local chief executive of Parang, and he is a very good advocate of youth programs in the locality. Next slide, please. Thank you. So scaling effective youth programs requires the participation of multiple actors across several subsystems. So the youth, education, the market systems, they are linking these various systems, and this is very important for greater education and employment outcomes for youth, including community-based organizations. Next slide, please. So, thank you. So there are so many pieces or integral part of the alliance that are built in the program. So we have capacity building activities, because we now have the right people on the table. So the program provided these several capacity building activities for them to be able to function effectively. So in the start of the year, they will gather together to do labor market analysis to provide programs that are responsive to local market needs. They do initial organizational capacity assessment in the beginning of the year. They set their plans and targets using the report card as a tool, which they will update regularly within the year, depending on the adjustment of the programs and the needs. And use the local service inventory report to document their leverages. So the program also provides series of leadership trainings for the youth, again, for the youth to be able to carry on their roles in the youth network. At the end of the year, they will come together to assess their performance again using the capacity assessment tool, and they come together in an annual learning dissemination events or Youth Development Alliance Summit to share their best practices, share the lessons learned within the wider YDA groups across all sites of the program. So the woman in the picture is Mayor Beng Limako. She is not a youth. She is a mayor of the Zamboanga City, one of our sites, and she spent quality time with the youth, listened to their inspiring stories during these events. Next slide, please. So this youth inclusive structure of the YDA, or the Youth Development Alliance, serve as a fertile ground for the youth leaders to further develop their leadership skills. So as members of the YDA, they benefit from the wisdom of the older members, the directors, the presidents of the organization, and they were able to directly access resources of other YDA member institutions. And they better position themselves to reach out to other youth and engage them in meaningful community service activities. So the older members, the seniors, not the youth representatives, also benefit from the perspective of the youth, and they were able to tailor services to the challenges and needs of the youth. So the youth voices are being heard and supported by the YDA, translated into meaningful youth development programs in the community. Next slide, please. So the youth leaders also organize themselves in their respective sites. They organize as youth networks, and they successfully engage other youth in their communities to participate in community service and civic engagement activities. So over the life of the project, these youth networks in 11 sites were able to design and implement more than 1,000 community service projects and civic engagement activities throughout the project sites in Mindanao. A few I would like to highlight include distribution of school supplies and hygiene kits to grade school pupils. This is a felt need of the elementary school, so they provided that together with the chief executive and all the members of the community. But these are all youth-led activities. They also conducted tree planting, clean activities, conduct first aid training to other youth because we are implementing the project in conflict-affected areas. So these are felt need, the first aid training. They also conducted 4 oceans clean up drive in the oceans and in the seas. A lot of our youth, they are out of school youth. They are in impoverished areas, but they found themselves very heartwarming doing all these engaging activities. They solicit donations when there are fires or fire victims, or the IDPs in the Marawi siege. They conduct foundations of resiliency activities together with the communities and parents. They do feeding program for street children. They have Vamos Jóvenes radio program and all of those other activities. So next slide, please. So all of these activities that I have mentioned are really the proof that they are really engaged in their communities, and they are consulting regularly with the community leaders on what are really the needs of the communities, that in their own rights and with the help of the YDA, they can provide assistance. And they became productive members, active members of the community. Next slide, please. So I would just like to close my presentation, and please allow me to share to you the video of one of our very successful youth leaders who was once an idle OSY, who became very confident, a role model to other youth, and a productive member of our family and community after she joined my DEF program. She graduated a bachelor course in education. She is now a teacher and a successful entrepreneur. She sits in the YDA as one of the youth representatives and influences the YDA members to support the youth development programs in her community. She also attended and presented in the CIES in San Francisco last year, and I am very proud, and please, friends, colleagues, let us be inspired by Ms. Jacqueline Urag's speech in one of the biggest Youth Development Alliance Summit held in Mindanao. Thank you and mabuhay. Let's watch the video.
Jessica, no sound.
These opportunities made us feel wonderful and important members of the community. In fact, through these activities, we get to extend services to our people, both old and young, and our communities as a whole. I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you to the USAID MyDev program, the local government unit of Parang, and the Parang YDA for giving us a chance to continue in achieving our dreams and goals in life.
Thank you. Thank you, Theresa. Thank you for the work that you've been doing. And we'll come back to some questions. And people, please, participants, please feel free to add questions in the chat as we're going along, and we'll hopefully be able to address some of them in the follow-up session. I'm now going to turn this over to Arafat Lashebe, who is a youth engagement officer with the International Youth Foundation in Tanzania. He brings his 6 years experience in youth development programs to design and facilitate youth-led activities that raise young Tanzanians' voices on issues that matter to them. Arafat was selected as a 2020 Youth Lead Ambassador, and he has held positions such as Vice Chairperson and Sustainable Development Goals Program Coordinator for the Tanzania Youth of United Nations Association, and was one of the first Global Master Champions trained by the United Nations Tanzania. Arafat, over to you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Hi, everyone. Good morning, and also good afternoon. So as been introduced, I'm Arafat working with IYF, supporting our youth engagement component and a VIA program within the Tibet system. Next slide, please. So deeply concerned with the contents in Tanzania youth shows that young people face various barriers in Tanzania. This includes lack of decent work, lack of soft skills, safe space to raise their awareness, but also furthermore, we are looking in terms of low level of meaningful engagement of young people within the Tibet system and other systems as well, and that target young people, specifically young people. So draw to our attention that in Tanzania, youth are defined with the age of 15 to 35 years, and only 60% of the population is under the age of 25. And among the 60%, 800,000 of youth enter to job market annually. So this clearly shows that there's a bunch of young people who are left out on the community, who are transitioning to further education, but also goes also to search for a new job. Next slide, please. So this is the framework that Bonnie has shared. It's a youth system programming that has shared before on the discussion. So I just wanted to highlight on what we are doing on this according to this framework. Next slide, please. Previous slide, sorry. So I just want to highlight as IYF, the youth engagement, we have been working with only 4 components under the VIA or Kijana Ongea initiatives, which is the norms and mindset, skills mapping, stakeholders and relationship, but also the services. That's all goes drives to our vision and the goal. Next. So from the system mapping component, this network analysis was done by the market share associate. Recognizing the youth was the challenge in the system. Information flow to the youth are very many indicated on the pictures. That many arrows comes to Tibet youth, but only few of them are following up to other stakeholders. Next slide, please. Sorry. So through system change analysis or system on the Tibet, as IYF, after identifying the gap in the system, this was what we are trying to do. Having the information flow from the youth to the Tibet system, this clear articulate youth voice to be heard within the TEDx system, but moreover, young people are able to recognize and provided a room to share their barriers and also their challenges in the success story as well. Next. So in terms of the services component that we are working, young people need skills, but also young people need space to practice and show their capacity. If young people have both skills, capacity, and altitude, they are able to bring their impact to their lives and also the community. Having young people fully engaged so as to ensure their feedback loop being heard. So through via program, we have worked with the partners in TEDx institution to improve the services for youth, work readiness, life skills, but also such career guidance, and also job placement and entrepreneurship skills. So through youth engagement, IYF has integrated meaningful engagement of young people within the TEDx centers. As the services that we are providing, we see that a lot of young people have been fully engaged through the classroom sessions, field work, and also focus group discussions that are conducted within the centers level. And youth were able to provide feedback on various services that are received within the center. Next. So in the angle of the, building the stakeholders engagement and relationship, what we did to address the communication and information flow in increasing the youth voice, first we had committed ourselves to contract the youth lead communication and research firm as a grounding rules so that to be able to conduct the following activities. So we conducted the 10 video diaries with the young people themselves, 6 different youth TV series, and 3 life skills documentaries. We also conducted a research of survey and focus of discussion regarding the youth needs in terms of youth engagement on the TEDx institution. And the result we have validated on the validation workshop that we have conducted in Theresa, Dodoma, and in Twara. But also to ensure the maximization of young people engagement, we also utilize the online platforms such as social media, website, but also in terms of a WhatsApp group that have been used within the beta system itself. And also to increase the youth engagement at a various stakeholders meeting, youth were invited to participate on the quarterly meetings, but also in other learning events to increase the network. Next. So I'd like to welcome to watch a very short summary of a video. That's one of examples of a video that we conducted on the Kijana Ongea TV series.
Welcome to the show. Karibu katika kipindi chako pendwa kabisa cha Kijana Ongea. Mimi mtangazaji Abubakar Musa Maulid na kimezaminiwa na IYF.
Kwa majina naitwa Debola Emmanuel Chapote. Karibuni katika kipindi chetu cha Kijana Ongea kinachozaminiwa na IYF.
Na leo tupo Dodoma au wengine wasema in Dodoma. Dada Debola, tukaone vijana wa VETA wa Dodoma jinsi gani walivyofunguka katika kipindi. Tugeuke tukawacheke.
Karibu kijana mwenzangu katika kipindi cha Kijana Ongea. Mimi naitwa Amina Swaburi Yasini, nasomea VETA Dodoma. Nasomea mambo ya saruni. Mimi ndoto yangu ninapenda kuwa na saruni kubwa hapa Tanzania. Katika mjadala huu leo tutakuwa tunajadiliana pale utapopata kazi, jinsi gani utaimudu kazi yako na jinsi gani utakabiliana na changamoto za kazi yako. Katika mjadala huu sitakuwa peke yangu, nitakuwa na kijana mwenzangu.
Asante Damina. Kwa majina naitwa Rajabu Juma, nimehitimu mafunzo ya dereva hapa VETA Dodoma. Kwa leo tutakuwa na vijana wenzetu, tutakuwa tukizungumzia mambo kuhusu mambo ya ndoto, jinsi gani kijana anaweza kutafuta kazi, kuimaintain kazi hiyo. Leo nipo na vijana wenzangu kutoka VETA hapa. Karibuni sana.
Stadi za maisha. Kijana Ongea.
Damina, kwa kwanza ungependa tuanzie wapi?
Mimi ningependa zaidi tungeanza kuhusu ndoto. Kijana ana ndoto gani na kitu ambacho amekuja kusomea VETA, na ana ndoto gani huko mbeleni, ndoto yake ikoje na pia na inaendelezaje ndoto yake?
Mimi kwa majina naitwa Asubuhi ya Muko, nasoma road construction and maintenance katika chuo cha VETA Dodoma. Kabla sijajiunga na chuo cha VETA, nilikuwa nafanya kazi katika kiwandani, lakini baadaye nikaona kwamba haina haja kuendelea kufanya kazi kiwandani. Nikasema ni bora nitimize ile ndoto yangu ya kuwa engineer. Nikasema ni njia gani nitakayopitia ili niweze kuwa engineer. Nikatafuta mafunzo, nikasema kama VETA watakuwa wanatoa kozi ya engineer kwa kiasi kidogo, ngoja nipitie hapo ili siku moja niweze kuwa engineer.
Kwa majina naitwa Happiness Magai Nyamwelo. Mimi ndoto yangu ni kuja kuwa engineer mkubwa wa umeme. Hii ni ndoto nilikuwa nayo toka nikiwa mdogo. Niliweza kutumia betri hizi kutengeneza taa, na jamii ndio kwa nakaa nayo walikuwa wanashangaa sana wakisema huyu mtoto wa kike kwa nini anapenda kufanya vitu vya kiume. Mimi ninaipenda sana hii kazi. Tanzania tunazalisha umeme mwingi sana, lakini vile vifaa vya kutunzia ule umeme tulivyonavyo ni vichache na tunategemea kutoka nchi fulani. Natamani sana siku moja Tanzania yangu umeme wake ujizalishe wenyewe na utumike katika nchi yangu, ujitosheleze kabisa. Hivyo natamani siku moja nisome nifike sehemu ambapo nije kuwa engineer ambaye nitazalisha umeme. Huo umeme utapita katika vifaa ambavyo vinamudu ule umeme ambao kufika sehemu husika nchi yangu yote iwake kwa umeme.
Ndoto yangu mimi ni mwanajeshi. Kwa hiyo
Thank you, Jessica, for sharing. So back on the slide. So that's one of the examples that we've created in terms of a TV series whereby young people are able to express themselves. Next slide, please. So on this slide, I just want to highlight the framework that we are trying to use in advocating clearly, show that the partnership between youth and adult must be increased in terms of strengthening the relationship. Next slide. So on building up on the norms component and changing of the mindset, we had done a lot of activities, and which has resulted first to amplify the voice, bring the change within the system, such as a better flow of information from the system among itself. But also utilizing the Kijana Ongea website, we have embedded the link with the VETA and Tech website. So these young people can be able to access the right information at the right time with the right, with a good quality of information. But also it encouraged a lot of change in the system, such as providing room of receiving feedback and this, regarding the service that were provided within the TVET institution. Lastly, it's also contributing on educating the community, like changing of their negative perception, like young people who are passing through TVET are people who are like young people who are already left out, or who have already lost on their education, other education sector. But also it also helped to capture the success story and developing youth-friendly communication product and information flow within the TVET institution. And then lastly, what's the big impact that came up is it also increased a very good engagement of the local government leaders within the TVET youth and the TVET system itself. Next. So on the part of learning and adapting, we are just trying, we are learning much in terms of working with youth and stakeholders in the system and adapting accordingly. So right now, what we are doing is to engage the student council as a missing gap within the TVET institution to build the capacity to amplify the youth voice within the TVET center and as the entry point of sustainability. Furthermore, we are also looking in terms of facilitating the partnership between VETA, like the TVET institution, and the UNICEF under the UReport platform. So UReport platform is a multi-channel platform that enable young people to report issues that are affecting themselves and the community as well, so that they can get real-time information and feedback regarding on their campaigning issues. Next. So thank you very much. And I think if you want to see more lots of the researches and the video diaries, apology that they are in Kiswahili, but we have tried to put the transcription in English. So you can be able to follow up. So you can visit the www.kijanaongea, or you can just reach it out through my email. Thank you very much. Over to you, Bonnie.
Thank you so much, Arafat. It was really great to see that, and I think a lot of people are interested in watching the full thing, the full video clip, so appreciated. So before we get into, and we hope people haven't been able to sort of see if you're putting up questions, I wanted to go back, Jessica, to the slide, the core YSC framework with the petals, and ask both Theresa and Arafat a question. And that is, which petal or petals of the YSC framework are where young people can have the greatest impact? What are you seeing in sort of your, early work focusing on systems?
Hi,
Okay,
Bonnie.
can start.
Yes, go ahead. Either, why don't you start with Theresa? Why don't you go first?
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you. Thank you, Arafat. Thank you, Bonnie. For our program, I think it's policies and laws, because there are already good things that are happening in every sites. A lot of good youth development programs are already in place, but our experiences in the previous programs is there are no policies and laws. The sustainability thing will be at stake. Maybe when the program will be finished, there is also no continuity of the program. So with the MIDEF program, there are policies that are already in place, specifically for youth development programs, with resources, with youth development office and youth development officers who are really taking care of youth programming in the community. And aside from that, I think the capacity building activities that we were able to provide with the youth leaders, until now, they are still in the youth network, and we are always hearing good news and stories about how they continue the work together with the youth development alliances. So that's it.
Thank you. Arafat?
Thank you. So to my perception, I think in my understanding, this is a Padlet that all of the things goes in parallel. But to my thinking around, I think we are looking forward to start with the system mapping. So young people, I think we should identify what kind of system that we are looking for to start or working on before even coming to up in terms of strengthening the system or building youth engagement within the system. So by having identify as through the system mapping, then other Padlets will follow up, like you can build up on the stakeholders relationship, goals that young people will be receiving the services, but also in terms of capacity building, learning, then we can receive the learning and through evaluation. But also the young people, they also I think would be very big needs in terms of the resources to be helpful. And by having the resources, it will shape in terms of policies that within the system need to recognize what kind of a thing that they should recognize engaging of young people. And that having the system, the policies, it will inform better in terms of changing the mindset within the system. Yeah, like, okay, young people need to provide feedback to the adults, not only adults need to provide the feedback to the young people. So that's my understanding in terms of this.
Okay, great. Just one other quick thing. Have you found that there are certain leaders either within your business communities or in government, other parts of the private sector, that have been particular allies in understanding, the changes that need to be happening in the systems and have opened themselves to working together with young people in more, productive ways?
Hi, Bonnie. Yes, this is Theresa. Yes, we've learned our lessons very well in this program, because this is the first program that we've implemented youth development programs with the involvement of the private sector. I would like to highlight and tell you the story of the Chamber of Commerce of Cotabato City, one of our sites. we have this market analysis, and we thought we were able already to identify marketable skills that will respond to the needs of the youth, including the market demand in the local level. But in the course of the program implementation, the chamber president, who is also a member of the YDA, got angry. She said, we have to adjust programming because now there is a change, a rapid change in the demand of the skills trainings that providing. So while we were providing technical skills trainings like electricians, carpentry, masonry, and all of the technical skills trainings that we've identified, we quickly adjusted and responded to the request of the chamber president that we should hire baggers, packers, cashiers for the malls that were being built in the city recently. So we've trained 500 youth to be able to respond to the demand of the establishment. We rallied support from the HR of the malls, and they have a special lane, and all of our graduates are admitted to, and they've got the chance to perform in the workplace. We have this life skills curriculum, the core or the heart component of the program. So they perform well in the workplace with these life skills, work readiness life skills, and the chamber was very happy. So we are very, very glad that this chamber called our attention and requested for adjustment of the regular programs. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Arafat, is there anything you'd like to add or share?
Yeah, I think I would just also like to highlight one of the good examples that we have seen in our program. I think also through this activity that we have done in terms of building the youth engagement component within the system, it also better came to inform now the management themselves, like say, okay, through the video diary, young people were expressing themselves, like the courses that they're providing within the VETA, they are very short in terms of the practical time. And the management did not even realize that, okay, this is a short time period of young people that they are saying. But through the validation workshop that we conducted, it better informed this kind of management to change their decision. Like, okay, maybe we need to go back and now restructure the period of this course. Does it really fit in terms of the need of young people? And also furthermore, it's also better when we are conducting this validation workshop, we invited the youth officers at the local government. And they come again to say, okay, at first, we were realizing that young people who are passing through the TVET institution must be employed. But now we say that young people are now interested in terms of to start their own business. So maybe the local government could invest their time and skills to provide the entrepreneurship skills or youth fund, through the youth fund that the government is providing, to enable these young people to start their own business or their own employment so that they can employ other fellow young people. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. That was helpful. I'm now going to turn this screen over to Ann Hershkowitz, who is a youth livelihood specialist and project director at EDC, where she manages youth workforce development programs in sub-Saharan Africa. She will help moderate questions that are in the chat box and also share a Padlet. So thank you, Ann.
Thanks, Bonnie. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. We have a few questions that have come in on the chat box, and we'll turn to those in just a moment. But before that, I'd like to highlight the Padlet. And maybe, Jessica, could you put that up, please? So we have a Padlet, and we'll also be sharing the link in just a moment in the chat box. So I want to just highlight this for you. We'll be doing this in parallel with the Q&A segment. This is the virtual board that you all are fairly familiar with, but for those who it's new to, it is optional. And I just want to highlight a few ways that you can use it. So you want to first copy the link that's in the chat box to a browser so that you can add directly into it. So we have 7 different columns, and one for each element of the Youth Systems Collaborative Learning Framework. And we also have an extra column for other, should you want to add other comments. You can just enter your comments and your thoughts here. And if you want to comment on other people's examples or their thoughts, you can just click and add a comment. So we invite you to engage with this space as we're going through the questions and answers. And we're going to keep this live for several days after the presentations as well. So we'll have this as a record, and we will add the slides into the Padlet so that it'll be available for everybody. Okay, I'm going to go now. We have a question about inclusion from Samantha at VSO. This is to both Theresa and to Arafat. Could you share a bit more about your approach to inclusion and how youth with multiple barriers such as disabilities, minority ethnic groups, socioeconomic barriers are included in these initiatives? And I would just add myself, I would like to also talk a little bit about digital barriers given our new reality with COVID-19. So maybe Theresa, do you want to go first and then we'll go to Arafat?
Yeah, thank you. During the course of the implementation of MyDev, we always do a regular focus group discussions before we recruit our youth participants to be able to be inclusive. As you can see, Mindanao is really diverse in terms of culture, religion, and ethnicities. So the demand of the project is really to be able to include those multiple barriers, especially with disabilities, socioeconomic, minority ethnic groups, including gender balance. So it's a priority of the program. We are also mandated by USAID to be able to be inclusive, and it's part of our deliverables. So we are very careful, and we are very sincere and open-minded, asking the communities, the community leaders to include, engage all of those youth with multiple barriers. One of our very successful person with disability was able to graduate Bachelor in Education, and she was also able to rally support for her co-youth who have these disabilities. So they are part of the youth network activities. They were always provided with support of their peers and the youth leaders, and they felt they belong and they were a part of the team. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Arafat, would you like to add?
Yeah, thank you, Jessie. So I think in terms of our program as well, in terms of the inclusion, we are taking it as a very core component, as it's a component that cut across. Like any intervention that we are taking around within the VIA program or within the youth engagement in the TEDx institution, we are taking an inclusion component as a cutting across element. So through a good example is in terms of the youth engagement activities, most of the validation workshop or the activity that we are engaging young people, we're also trying to work hard, working closely with youth group that is called Shivyawata. It's a group, a society of young people living with disability in Tanzania. So anytime in terms of the activities or program that we are trying to look to achieve reaching out to young people, we have better engaged them in terms of participation, but also furthermore, in terms of specific youth engagement, when you get time, all of the participants to visit the videos, you will see we have also an element whereby young people who are passing through TEDx, we provide them the space to raise their voice. So a good example, we had one person called Rajab. So Rajab was a person who passed through TEDx, and he's a disabled person. But some way, but he was also able, by receiving the life skills studies within the TEDx, he was able to identify himself that any challenge that comes around, he can control with it. So until now we are speaking, Rajab has started his own business of making leather shoes and also making leather products. And they are now, he also now employ other fellow young people. So we are very proud in terms of including those kind of components, because it attracts other fellow young people who are living with a disability to join within the TVET institutions. And furthermore, what we are taking around also in terms of monitoring and evaluation, we have tried to keep tracking all of the data and information to also regarding issues of disability, regarding of gender, and also gender as our core component as well. And even when you go back to our videos, you will see that we highlighted a lot of stories in terms of the female students who are undertaking non-traditional course within the TVET institution. So just to remove that kind of negative perception that these courses are only for men, but not only, even young women can also participate with this kind of course. Thank you, Jesse.
Great, thank you both. Now I'm going to move to a question from Rachel Blum about changing mindsets. The question is, can you talk about your experiences with how norms and mindsets have shifted in the system? And have either of you measured these kinds of changes? So again, we'll start with Theresa and go to Arafat.
Okay, thank you so much. In our local community, this out-of-school youth are really perceived by the community as idle and productive, and sometimes they are what you call this, weeds in the community, useless. So it takes time for the project to advocate for the youth or the OSY themselves to be able to be productive. So we provide activities. That's why we provide youth engagement activities, youth-led services, and community service projects for the community to be awakened and change their perception. When they saw in their communities that these out-of-school youth are leading in providing services to the communities, like fixing the school garden or doing a campaign, clean up campaign, a feeding program for children, they felt, they appreciated the value of the out-of-school youth, that they have a lot of things that they can bring on and strength and positivity in their own lives, and they can be productive in the community. So that's why the barangay captains or the chieftain of the community already advocate policies and laws that there should be a regular resource mobilization fund for these kinds of activities, because it will help the community grow and be productive and engage and build relationships among the families and communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Theresa. Arafat, would you like to add?
Yeah, I think in terms of the mindset and norms, through the youth engagement activities, I think we've tried to, we are trying very hard, and also I think something that you cannot change as immediately, but it's something that is an ongoing. So when something is ongoing, like you can try change within a minimum time, but it's also by changing the policies also help to inform them changing of the norms and mindset. So coming back on the activity that we have done through the TVET institution on amplifying young people, it's also helping in terms of changing the mindset of this management side. Now they're also able for now creating like a focus group discussion within the TVET institution, just to evaluate kind of a feedback of the session. Like every session that's a PTS session or life skills session that is conducted within the TVET, the teacher can bring the young people and receive feedback in terms of how well the session was, but also through various means of communication. The management also now receiving feedback from young people. on different angles. But as ourselves now, we're also trying, I think when I mentioned on my slide, that now what we're working is to bring on board the TVET Student Council as an entry point, because we believe that the Student Council can be the better place where they can inform, they can change the mindset and norms, because they receive feedback from young people, but they can channel to the management, and the management are able to change their mindset in terms of what they are receiving feedback from them is a positive thing, but it's not a negative thing as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sort of following on your discussion there about feedback and the direct link with management from youth. There's a question directly to you, Arafat, about incorporating feedback from the private sector in the TVET programs. Do you follow youth after their job placement to understand their and their employers' experiences so that the program can adapt based on this? Could you address that about working with the private sector and getting their feedback?
Thank you, Jessica. So in terms of that, I think that's is a larger element that comes on the VIA program. So VIA program also have the job placement services, whereby since we are now trying to do, we are using a system change approach. So system change approach is an approach whereby we build capacity of the system itself, and the system take over providing the services to the young people. So one of the things that we are providing to young people is the job placement services. And these young people, when they go to the field during their internship side of the field work, they are providing some kind of a document or an evaluation form whereby this employer can be able to provide feedback for that student who came back, who is undertaking that kind of feedback, who is undertaking that kind of field. So that is helping like better to inform the TVET institution themselves, like, okay, this young person has been very cooperative within the employment, but he has a 1 and 2, 3 gaps, but also he has also strength on it. So that is the mechanism that we are trying to get the feedback from the private sector through the job placement activities. But also further, just to add on that, I think we're also inviting most of the private sector on our workshops and in dialogues, but also in a learning event, whereby we're also providing a room for them to speak. What is the product? What is the result of our product that comes to their market? So that's helped better inform of our program. But also, since our goal is to strengthen the system, I think it's also helping the system itself to strengthen the mechanism of engaging the private sector direct to the TVET institution. Thank you.
Thank you, Arafat. That's really helpful to hear about the way that you gathered feedback from from employers. I'm going to ask Theresa to maybe speak briefly about the way that the feedback was gathered through the YDAs around youth engagement. So maybe, Theresa, would you like to say a few words?
We have surveys dedicated for this. It's called Youth Employment Survey. So it has baseline and endline, and it gets the perception of the youth towards employers, towards government leaders, and how they were able to deliver services to the youth. So it turned out well because of the Youth Development Alliance. They have set up policies and services that are responsive to the community, capacity building activities that are also responsive to the training needs of the Youth Development Alliance. A lot of the resources that were being leveraged by the Youth Development Alliance are really coming from those organizations because of this feedback mechanism and the service study and the study youth perception service that we have employed in the program. So all of the youth will take the survey, and then there's an end line. So towards the end, it's 75% 5% perception increase from the baseline. So it's a huge indicator that the youth already felt the services of the government, and they have voice, they have been heard, and they have a place in the community and in the local system.
Thank you so much for that. We have one more question, and we're running low on time, so we're just going to take this last question here. A reminder that if you want to be contributing to the Padlet, it is still open, and we will leave it open. There's a question about if or how you've engaged mental health or psychosocial services in the programs that you worked on. And Bonnie added on to that about, have there been any changes in the systems, policies, and budgets to proactively promote and expand mental health supports for young people? So first, did you include mental health or psychosocial support? And have you also noticed any changes around policies, budgets, around promoting mental health? And we'll start with Theresa and go to Arafat.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. During the MyDev program, there are a lot of challenges that are happening in the cities that we are in. Like for Marawi City, when the Marawi siege erupted way back 2018, the whole city was bombarded. They were all IDPs. Nobody was left. They were in the transitory sites, in the IDP sites. So we provided the intervention with the help of our expert in EDC head office, Dr. Heidi Carr. So we immediately developed these modules for mental health and for the community, including the parents. And after, even the YDAs were also undergoing those activities. And then after a month, they to stand up again and roll their sleeves and ask for donations, help those who are in the camps. A lot of stakeholders in the nearby cities provided donations because they
Theresa, are you there?
Wherever they are volunteers in organizations. Yeah.
We lost you for just a moment. But I think you were explaining about the mental health supports and what was done following the siege in Marari. Thanks. Due to time, I'm going to go straight to Arafat to answer that same question about mental health supports and if there's been any changes in budgets and policies that you've seen around mental health support. Arafat?
Thank you, Jessie. I think from the VIA program that we are working within the Tibet institution, so mental health or emotional skills are part of our curriculum, life skills curriculum. So the life skills curriculum that we are providing with the Tibet institution, one of the subject or one of the lesson is to provide session on emotional skills, or how to handle the emotional, how to be able to be confident, and how to handle difficult relationship. So I think that's one of the elements that we have focused very much in terms of through the VIA program within the Tibet institution, so as to support these young people on the Tibet institution. And in terms of the budget side, I think since we are working on the system, we have tried just recently, as now our program is come to an end, so we've tried to embed it or to integrate the life skills curriculum of IYF to the Tibet institution life skills curriculum. So now they have embedded the life skills curriculum of VETA and IYF, and now they have their own life skills curriculum. And through that, they're able to determine what kind of the costs that are incurred if IYF is dropped off through the program. And those costs are embedded within the budget of the Tibet VETA itself. So now every student who is joining the VETA is able to acquire the life skills studies within also the technical skills that are provided within VETA. So one of the life skills studies that I said is also receiving the emotional support or mental health. So I think that we are trying very much, but also furthermore, we're also looking forward in terms of other area that we're working on other program. It's a program of a youth lead, whereby we're working with a public institution, Don Bosco. So through that, we are trying to bring different specialists who are working on the mental health or providing psychological support to young people, and providing different sessions to these young people. So that's the thing, I think, that we are working very as long as the program is goes. Maybe I don't know if the time is allowed, but I can also welcome maybe Tom, if you have anything just to add on that element on.
Thanks, Arafat. Not much to add from my side. You know, I think this is such an important issue in the during COVID-19 outbreak in Tanzania. Arafat and his colleagues there reached out to young people, and part of that process, you know, it was not necessarily for us to be providing the psychosocial support or mental health care, but be prepared to link to other organizations that are doing that and do have that responsibility and do have that skill. And so that's, you know, one thing as we think about approaches is it's important to have those linkages to different organizations within the system who specialize in these areas. So thanks, Arafat.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. I'm going to turn it back to Bonnie to wrap us up since we're almost out of time.
Thank you,
Bonnie?
Anne. Thanks so much. Jessica, if you could go back to the original slide with the YSC members on it, I just wanted to wrap some of this up and thank Theresa and Arafat for the incredibly hard work you're doing. And to be able to sort of listen and hear how we're making shifts. We actually can only implement things by trying to provide services and programs, but the thinking, the approaches, the questions we need to ask, the intentionality of focusing on how the systems are working and understanding what undergirds them, from the policies that put them in place to the political leadership that made them happen, and how they're going to change over time, and how we're strategically working with the right partners to make these systemic changes that are going to impact larger and larger numbers in a positive way, and with young people, with us, and guiding us and learning together. So I just wanted to come back to this slide because how much you know, Claire and I have both just really appreciated and the learning that we're getting by having these organizations sit together, share their experiences through, we read together, we read articles together, we're sharing case studies from what we're doing in communities and countries around the world. And again, while there is competition, there's also this very proactive, positive opportunity to be learning from each other and sharing what we're learning more broadly to hopefully see changes at the systems level. We are working on a combined journal article, Creative EDC and IYF, that when it is completed, hopefully by the fall, the end of the fall, we will hopefully be able to share that, which will get more deeply into some of the issues that we're learning about trying to change systems. So I also just wanted to take this time to thank the Making Sense team, especially Jessica, who took us through all this and really helped to calm us all down about how the technology was going to work. Obviously, Theresa and Arafat for your experiences and your knowledge, and to thank you for the incredible work you're doing in your countries. Obviously to thank Anne, and in the background of Anne is Nancy Wallace and Cecilia Latoure from EDC, and also Tom Brownlee from IYF. This was definitely a joint and group virtual effort to get this done, and we thank everyone. So thanks to IYF and EDC and Making Sense, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day and we continue on learning at this wonderful summit.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. Well, that concludes today's breakout session on Youth Voices Rising to Change Local Systems. As Bonnie mentioned, thank you to all of our presenters and facilitators, and thank you to everyone for attending. The PowerPoint and today's session recording will be available shortly on the GYEO track site. And as always, we welcome your feedback and hope you enjoy the rest of your day.